Hi everyone, welcome to another edition of writing skill videos. This segment is all about colons and semicolons and learning to tell the difference and how to use them properly, okay? So first of all, which one do you use? How do you know which one to use? Well, I think first it's wise to figure out when to use semicolons because they are used in more limited situations. So semicolons really only have two proper uses most of the time, and that's number one, to connect two sentences without a coordinating conjunction. So if you have two sentences and you want to stick them together because they're so closely related, but you don't want to use a conjunction, you want them to just flow right into each other, then you can use a semicolon in that case. But you only want to do that very rarely, okay, and only when they just really need to be together as one unit. And also, they are used to clarify complex lists. So in that case, they're used essentially like a comma when you have very, very complex lists going on. And I'll show you an example of that in a minute. Now, colons have more possible uses. So first of all, they're often used to lead into a list or a quotation. So you'll have some sort of introduction to the list, and you'll have a colon, and it'll go into some sort of list of things. Or you'll have an introductory phrase that after a colon then goes into a quotation, usually a full sentence as an introduction, and then the colon and the quotation. Sometimes they're often used for emphasis in some way or another, and I'll show you how that happens. So you want to emphasize some meaning within the sentence, and I'll show you that in a second. And also to indicate subtitles. So if you have a main title and a subtitle and a title, you have one there as well. And then there's several other circumstances where they're used with numbers. For example, you may have seen Bible verses with a colon used in the middle, or to indicate a volume and a number of a journal, for example. Okay, so there's several different circumstances where they're used in combination with numbers. So let's look at some examples of that. So California has a stay-at-home order, semicolon, Arizona does not. So that's combining sentences. So both of those are complete sentences on both sides of the semicolon, and rather than using something like comma, but Arizona does not, if you wanted them to be just elided together like that, you can use a semicolon instead of the comma and conjunction. Now, you want to use those very sparingly, if at all. Okay, you don't want those all through your paper. Okay, so just use them when you really have something that you want to combine because it's so closely related. Okay, and here's another example. Seniors have many special privileges, freshmen have none. So that's another combining of two complete clauses, two complete sentences. Okay, now here's an example of where you might use it for lists. Now, the complex lists, if you're going to use a semicolon, usually have commas already in the lists, okay? So that's why you don't want to use the comma. You want to use the semicolon instead. So in this case, Bruce Springsteen will tour Columbus, Ohio, semicolon, Anaheim, California, semicolon, Santa Fe, New Mexico, semicolon, and Tucson, Arizona, okay? If you had used the comma in that case, it would have gotten very confused with all the other commas after the cities. Okay, so that's why the semicolon is used in that case. Okay, so if your list of things has commas already in it, you use the semicolon instead of the comma as you would in a normal series. So here's another example. So dignitaries at the event included Jane Smith, president of Greenwich University, semicolon. So notice again there's a comma already in that phrase. Marcus Neighbors, comma, CEO of Acme Corporation, semicolon, and Tammy Wright, founder of Child Help International. So you have a series here, in this case 3, and there's already commas built into that series, so the semicolon is preferred in that case. Okay? Now colons, let's take a look at that. So here's a listing using a colon. So you must pack 3 things for the vacation, colon, sunscreen, swimming suit, and sunglasses, okay? So you don't always need a colon with lists, but when you're really emphasizing what you're listing out and what you want people to pay attention to, you can use it to start a list like this, okay? Here's another example. This is more for emphasis, okay? There's only one way in, colon, through the doggy door. So that phrase is being specially emphasized through the use of a colon, okay? So again, that needs to be done just very rarely, but here's an example of a colon used with a subtitle. So I've seen Star Wars, colon, A New Hope 50 times. So the New Hope is the subtitle. So there's a colon in between Star Wars and New Hope. So that would occur anytime you have a title and subtitle within your text. For your own title at the top of your page, you would only do that if you had both the title and the subtitle on the same line. You would get rid of it if you have the subtitle on the second line, okay? And I have to recite John 3:16 as soon as Sunday school begins at 10:45 a.m. So those are two examples of numerical conventions that use the colons. Okay, so there's various different situations where colons are used. And you will probably run into those as you go along. So Bible verses, chapters of things, time, indication. So these things all use the colon, okay? So hopefully that clarified the difference between a semicolon and a colon for you. If you want more help with that or more help with punctuation in general, there's more information about that in the Yavapai College Rough Rider's Guide, Section 9, Chapter 43. So head over there and read more about it if you're struggling with that. Also, you can sit down with a Learning Center tutor and go over how to use these two punctuation marks or any other punctuation problems you're dealing with. Or you can talk to your instructor or visit them during their office hours. Okay? So thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next writing skill video. Bye-bye.